Shalom, everyone. All praises to the Most High. This is going to be my first video. Definitely not my last. I'm actually making this video because I've been having a serious pulling. Like I can't no longer hold back. Especially after some recent revelations. I'm also making this video because, for the people that's coming into the truth, they're coming into their awakening and they're learning different things. I know that, most of you, if not all of you, remember what you felt like when you woke up. And everything was confusing and it was so much information and you were trying to discern between what was right and what didn't sound right and what didn't feel right. And, you were battling with yourself on whether you're crazy or not and who else is talking about all of these different things and, who else is going through these experiences that are going through. Want to be an encouragement to someone coming into the truth. And I want them to know that, if they're crazy, then we're all crazy then. Because this awakening that's been happening, we all can't be wrong. We don't have all the answers, but we all can be wrong. And I suppose I'm also doing this video for myself because I've been holding a lot of different things for a long time. And it's time for me to speak up. It's time for me to get this off my chest, and it's time for me to share with my brothers and sisters in hopes that they might be able to enlighten me, on some of the things that I still don't understand. So I'm going to give you, some info about myself and, how I grew up and different abilities and gifts that I have been given. And I'll take it from there. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I have several things that I want to go over, several things that I want to share. So I don't know if this is going to be a multi-part type of thing. But, I'll take my time. I'll give as much detail as I can. And I'm going to be truthful. I'm going to start off with discussing when I first, remember these different abilities or gifts that I've been given. When I was about 5 years old, I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with my mom, my 2 brothers, and my sister. And this particular apartment used to be a factory from what I understand. But I'm letting you know that because when I tell you it used to get dark in this apartment when them lights went out, it was pitch black in there. You couldn't even see your hand before your face. Lo and behold, I was afraid of the dark. And in perhaps some ways, I think I still am because I still have to sleep with the lights on. I'll get into details in regards to that as we move forward. When I was about 5 years old, I used to have a problem going to sleep with the lights turned off. But my mother, she would always say, y'all don't pay no light bills in here. I pay the light bills in here. Turn them lights out. So I would always have to wait until everybody went off to sleep to turn the lights on in order for me to get comfortable enough to go to sleep. But this particular night, I went to sleep before everybody else did. So when I woke up, it was pitch black. It took some time for my eyes to get adjusted. So I just laid there. I had to go to the bathroom. So I thought. When I woke up, I realized that my brothers, their room door was open, and they often, went to sleep with their doors closed, which is the way that I would have loved to go to sleep, because that's the way that I sleep now. My doors have to be closed. However, the apartment that we lived in, my bedroom was near the kitchen. It didn't have a door. So I suppose that's why I was extra scared. All these open doorways and, Anyhow, I went to look and do a survey around my room. Make sure the coast is clear so I can get up and run into the bathroom and turn the lights on. Use it and then get back in bed with the lights on. However, when I looked into my brother's room, I seen two figures. And like any child, when they see something that they're not used to seeing, they got to blink their eyes, rub their eyes to make sure that they're not, just imagining things. And lo and behold, I wasn't just imagining things. And the reason why I know I wasn't was because of the distinct features of these shadowy figures that I seen. And I'm going to say shadowy figures because there was no real characteristics. I couldn't tell you what color the people were. I couldn't tell you whether they had a pointy nose, or I couldn't tell you. I didn't see that. I seen silhouettes. And the silhouettes that I saw was of a tall, slim figure, and the second was a shorter, stockier figure. Both of them had on brim hats and what looked to me back then as trench coats. And they were standing over my older brother. And when I realized that what I was looking at wasn't just a figment of my imagination, I jumped back and I made a sound. They heard me, so they both turned in my direction. At that point, I had threw the covers over my head like any child would do, because it's a safety mechanism. You think that if you throw the covers over your head, that's gonna save you. And I stayed there with the covers over my head for a while because I was in fear that they might be standing over me once I pulled those covers down. But when I got up enough courage, I peeked out of the cover and I didn't see anything. Pulled the cover down all the way, I didn't see anything. After a while, I was able to get up and turn the lights on, use the bathroom, and get back in the bed, this time on the other side of my sister, putting her on the outside. I guess it's kind of funny because I felt like, oh, if they gonna come and get me, they gotta get through her first. That's bad. But I was a child. I wasn't nothing but 5 years old. When I was 7 years old, I had fell asleep in my mom's room on her couch. And they never woke me up again because I had a hard time falling asleep. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to sleep until it was light outside. The light made me feel safe. And they knew that if they woke me up, that it was going to be difficult for me to go back to sleep. And my mom, she wanted me to rest. But I got woken up from the stomping and the screaming as my sister ran into my brother's room screaming. And I'm assuming that she must have jumped on top of him because he began to scream. And then my older brother began to scream. My mom and my dad jumped up and they ran out the room and they ran to see what was going on with their children and why their children were screaming. They left me in their room by myself in the dark. And because I was afraid of the dark, I wasn't about to get up and walk through the dark house, because on the way to my parents running to see what was going on with their children, they didn't turn on any lights. Being that we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, my mom's room was in the front of the house. Her room was actually the living room turned into a bedroom. And her room was right across from the kitchen. And she didn't have a door. What she did have in its place was some beads hanging down, as often was seen back in the day as a decorative feature for doorways. So you could see right through into the kitchen. And as my mother is going back and forth with my sister and my brothers who's arguing with her what they saw, while she's telling them they didn't see no such thing, it was because they were watching scary movies before they went to bed. Now, whether or not my mother believed them or not is up for debate, because my mother was real fearful of a lot of different things. So even if she believed them, she wasn't going to let on. She didn't want to play into their imagination. And also, she didn't want to believe it herself out of fear. I laid on that couch and I listened to them go back and forth while I'm staring out into the dark kitchen, and out floats this woman's silhouette figure. Now, my sister and my brothers called it a witch, but it was a woman's figure. And she didn't have a broomstick, but she was in a seated position. And her feet didn't touch the ground. And it was a silhouette, shadowy figure. Once again, couldn't give you details about facial features because it's not what I saw. And this woman must have known that I was inside of my mother's room because she came and she stopped right in front of my mom's bedroom doorway. And she looked directly at me. Now, I didn't make a sound. I couldn't. I was too afraid. I was so afraid that I couldn't even take and throw the covers over my head. I just laid there looking at this figure as this figure looked at me. And I laid there. After a while, she turned her face in the direction that she was heading, and she just kept moving it along, floating away. Well, I was stuck. I still wasn't moving out the spot that I was in. I didn't know where she disappeared to, if she was even gone. I didn't know. I just laid there. My mother and my father entered back into their room, and they were, going back and forth. My mom was upset. And she was like talking about they seen some witch. They ain't seen no witch. I'm going to make sure that I disconnect the TV before they go to bed at night. Before we lay down to go to bed at night. And I turned at my mom and I just said, Mommy, I seen it too. And I went and I told her what I saw. My mom didn't argue with me. And my dad looked at her. She looked at him. And he said, she seen it. Like he was sure. Like he just knew I was telling the truth and it was nothing to be debated. And my mom, she didn't say anything else. She just looked. She went and she laid back down in her bed. Lo and behold, I didn't go back to sleep. I didn't go back to sleep until morning time. And my mom, she allowed me to rest. My next experience, after a while, the Most High, he does things the way that he do them for a reason. Because I was so fearful of the things that I was seeing, I was no longer able to see those things. See, he doesn't give you a gift that you're afraid of. He'll take it away and he'll give it back to you at a later time when he's sure that you can handle it. But he didn't stop dealing with me altogether. He just took the ability for me to be able to see figures. However, he still dealt with me via visions during my dreams. And he still dealt with me. I no longer could see, but I can feel. So now I went from visually being able to see figures to being able to feel presence. I can feel electricity. Kind of like how when a person enters the room, you know that somebody entered the room. You turn around and you go, hey, you know somebody entered the room. I feel that same way when things enter the room, and I often know that it's not nobody that I can physically see. And I can pretty much discern what type of spirit it is. I can also hear electricity, just like when you turn on a television. You can hear that electric charge. Your TV is about to come on, so I can hear electricity. So I haven't been able to see figures, but I was able to feel them and know that they were there. And the Most High dealt with me, like I said, with visions and dreams. What began to start happening, throughout the years is It's interesting, and it's not anything that I say I could ever get used to. I can't control these things. There is no on or off switch. I have no control over these things at all. So I couldn't help anybody win a lottery. I couldn't do any of those things. It happens when it happens, and I either know, what these dreams mean, or I don't. These things stay with me. I don't forget them, which is why I can remember things from 5 years old, and I'm 38 now. So, what began to happen with me is I became a dreamer. And I would have lots of dreams, lots of spiritual dreams, whether I was flying or I was being chased by, when you're young, the demons that you know are monsters. So because we watched TV heavily back when I was little, the monsters could have been things like Freddy Krueger, Jason. It could have been the Incredible Hulk. I did not like the Incredible Hulk when I was little. And we used to watch the TV series, so it wasn't really the cartoons. It was a human being playing, as David Banner, and you didn't like him when he was angry and he turned into the monster. So things like those would be in my dreams, chasing after me and trying to do all sorts of manners of wickedness and craziness or whatever have you. I also found myself having a lot of different falling dreams, like I was always falling. In my dreams, I can do unbelievable things, and sometimes I was jumping from mountain to mountain. Sometimes I was flying. I'm scared of heights. In the physical plane, I'm scared of heights. But in my dreams, I fly. In my dreams, I can run real fast. And when I'm being attacked, my motions are slow. For instance, what I mean by my motions are slow, if I'm being attacked, something could be coming after me and I could be trying to fight back. And my hits, my punches would be in slow motion. And I could never understand what that was, what that is. But I'm going to take you through some dreams, and I'm going to bounce around a bit. So I'm not going to be naming off how I was this age, that age. So one of the dreams that I experienced, I was sleeping in my bed. I had just bought my very first car. And I had my daughter at this time, and she was only about, I want to say, maybe 7 or 8 months old, and she was laying in the bed next to me. And I had jumped out of my dream because I had seen myself get into a car accident, and I seen the location, and I knew the area, and it scared me. One thing that I learned about my dreams, besides the fact that I couldn't share them with everybody, especially my mom, because she would be scared, my siblings, because they would be scared. Because over the years, I have said things that occurred in my dreams that actually happened. So I held back some. And this particular dream, I jumped out of it, like I said, I was scared. And, I was just sitting up in my bed, just thinking about, because it felt real. My dreams, when I see myself experiencing anything in my dreams, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was me. It could be somebody that's close to me, a friend, a sibling, anybody that's close to me. And I started to pick that up over the years in realization. My phone rang while I was sitting thinking about these things, and it was my cousin on the other line, and she was calling me to let me know that a mutual friend of ours had gotten into a car accident. So I stopped her in her speech, and I was like, yeah. I was like, was it over at this area around this bend? And she was like, how the heck did you know that? And I told her I dreamed it. Now, she knew I was telling the truth. My cousin, we grew up together, and I have been experiencing these things for a good part of my life, so she knew that I was telling the truth. And then I told her, I said she passed away. And then she confirmed that she passed away. So that was yet another dream that came true instantly. Again, I have no control over these things. It's all the Most High. Later on, I was visiting my sister, my older sister, and she lived in Brooklyn at the time. And I was visiting her, and, she has a helping spirit too. Her and I are not as close, and, I'll save the details of her and, her and my relationship for another video. But she does have a helping spirit towards others. And she had taken in an older man. He was an older man. He had children that didn't accept him, I guess, because he was out there in the world and he was, on drugs, or more so he was an alcoholic. So he was homeless and he lived on the street, and my sister had took him in. He was a Hebrew. She felt comfortable doing it, I guess, because, it's a father figure type, and she felt bad for him, so she took him in. And we called him Pop. And Pop and I had a relationship where we would talk junk to each other. That was our relationship. Oh, shut up. You shut up. Just crazy, acting crazy. And one day we were there. This is back before I stopped all my shenanigans. And we were drinking, having a few drinks, laughing, having a good time. We had eaten food, He had a seizure, a bad one. And I remember telling my sister to call an ambulance. Don't touch him. Just don't touch him. Don't move him. Clear the way and just call the ambulance. The ambulance came there. They stabilized him, and they went and they took him off to the hospital. We cleaned up everything, and I told my sister, I was like, listen, I'm about to take the kids and I'm gonna go home. I'll check on you a couple of days or whatever to find out how Pop is doing. So I went home, and about 2 days later, I got the kids ready and situated for bed, and I went off to sleep. And I had a dream. And in this dream, Pop, he came to me. And when I tell you, this man looked good, and he was just bright. He looked healthy. He looked, younger. He looked more vibrant. He didn't look like himself. He looked good. He looked peaceful. And he began to speak to me. In my dreams, when people speak to me, I don't know how many other people dreams is like this, but when they speak to me, they don't move their mouth. So everything is, a mental thing. And he was, saying to me, hey, how you doing? And I was like, what's going on, old man? Because, that's how I'm used to talking with him. And he smiled, and he was, greeting me or whatever. And then he said, I need you to do me a favor. I said, what you mean you need me to do you a favor? What type of favor you need me to do for you? So he said to me, he goes, I need you to tell your sister something. So here I am. I'm still, carrying on our relationship and how we used to, deal with each other. And I'm like, what I look like, your messenger? So he smiled. And then he was like, I need you to give her a message for me. And I was like, all right, what you want me to tell her? And so he goes on the stage, to tell her that he loves her and that he appreciated everything that my sister had done for him. And that he wanted her to know that he was at peace and he wasn't in any pain and that he was okay. So I said to him, and I was like, why you just can't call her and tell her yourself? And he said, she wouldn't hear me. So I said, all right, I got you this time. I'll tell her. Don't worry about it. And then I woke up. So my boyfriend at the time, my daughter's dad, he looks at me and he goes, what's the matter? And I was like, I had a dream about Pop. And we had been together for a while, and so he knows about my dreams. he's a little fearful himself, scared of it himself, but I had a troubling look on my face because in reality, I knew that Pop was in the hospital, but it seemed that in my dream, it didn't even dawn on me that, listen, he's supposed to be in the hospital. So I go on to, tell my dream to, my daughter's father, and he was like, "You gonna call your sister, right?" And I was like, "For what?" He was like, "Call your sister and tell her." And I was like, all right, I'm going to call in a few minutes. He would not let me be until I made that phone call. So I called my sister and I let her know. I gave her the message. And the whole time, my sister was silent on the phone. She didn't interrupt me not one time. Now, I don't know what changed because usually when I used to tell them things, we don't want to hear, we don't want to hear. But this time, she was silent. And so silent that I had to go, "Hello, you still there?" She was like, "Let me call you back." And I was like, all right, I hung up and I didn't think any more about it. She called me back and she was crying and she was real upset. And I'm like, yo, what's the matter? What's going on? And so she goes to tell me that Pop passed away the night before. And it blew my mind. And I'm going to tell y'all, like, it never stopped blowing my mind. I don't think that I've ever gotten used to the fact that I was given a gift, though I can't control it. Even to this day, I haven't gotten over the fact. So every time I'd be given dreams and they would come to fruition, I would still have the same shock. Later on, I go on to have another dream. And I'm going to back up a little bit because I told you about, a friend of mine that passed away. She came to me in my dream, and she came to me in my dream due to the fact that I was feeling guilty because a month prior, I had ran into her and she was saying how she hadn't gotten to spend any time with me since I had my daughter. And I told her, I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, I'm a mommy now and everything is just, everything is my daughter. I went to work and I came home. It was my daughter. See, I grew up fast anyway, and I was always taking care of somebody else's kids. I was always around, older folks, so, and I had fun. I was a child. And I did childish things. And I had a lot of fun. Some people might say early. So when I tell you I fell in line when my daughter came about, I did not want to put that burden on my mother. I felt like I disappointed her enough over the fact that I've had my daughter early. I didn't want to put that burden. I had a lot to prove. To the people that were looking at me, and then I had a lot to prove to myself. So I cut everything out. It was all about my daughter going to work and making sure that she was taken care of and helping my mother. So none of my friends that I used to hang out with, they weren't seeing me. But I told my friend a month before her death, I said, you know what? I'll make some time. I'm going to come chill with you. And she was looking forward to that. So lo and behold, I never got a chance. So I felt guilty. I went to her funeral. And, I felt guilty. And that guilt stayed with me so much so that I began to dream about her. But I would always jump out of that dream. I couldn't face her. I didn't want to face her. And the one time I wasn't able to jump out of my dream, she was chasing me because I was running away from her. I knew that she wasn't alive. Well, as far as what we know alive to be. But she wouldn't let up. And she continued to chase me until I got tired. And I was like, what are you doing? You're dead. And so she says, I just want to tell you that I'm okay. And it's okay. And you don't have to feel guilty. I understand. And she was like, and I'm good. I'm not, I have, I'm in good, I'm good. I don't have any pain. You know, I looked at her and she looked back at me, and I told her I was sorry, and she said, don't worry about it. She didn't come to me anymore after that. Moving along, I was pregnant with my son, who's now 17 years old. And I was laying in bed. I had my TV going like I often did. Told you guys I can't sleep in the dark. And so I had a cold. And I had asked the doctor if, I was able to take anything. I was far enough along that he told me that I can take Theraflu and that I can have NyQuil, and it wouldn't be an issue. So when I got home, my boyfriend, my children's father, because he wasn't my husband at that time, and he went and he made me some soup, and he made my tea with the Theraflu in it, and he went and he got the NyQuil. I ate what I was going to eat. I drank the NyQuil, and I took the dose of NyQuil that my doctor told me I can have. So the soup, the Theraflu, the NyQuil. Next thing you know, I was out. So I was sleeping. Done. And it must have been early hours of the morning or whatever. I can just tell. I was a child who used to stay up all night long and not go to sleep until the morning. So I kind of had a feeling for what the time was. It had to be, anywhere from 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning. At this point, it was still dark outside. And I opened my eyes, and just to get myself, awake, open my eyes. And then I went to move, and I couldn't move. I couldn't move. I tried to move my hands. I tried to move my feet. I couldn't move. The only thing that I seemed to be able to move was my head. So I turned to my children's father, and I went to call his name to wake him up, but I couldn't speak. Now, this had never happened to me before. So I'm thinking, because I didn't know what the heck was going on. And I'm struggling. The more I'm struggling, the feeling that I was feeling seemed to get worse. And what it actually felt like was, it actually felt like something was sitting on me, preventing me from getting up. And I was scared. But I calmed down. I just had this, I don't know, I never experienced this before, so nobody ever told me what to do. I never knew nothing about that. I went to church when I was younger, but nobody ever talked about nothing like this. I never experienced this, so I didn't know what to do. But it seemed like something came over me, and I apparently knew exactly what to do, because I stopped fighting, and I calmed down, and I began to pray in my head. And when I say shortly after I began to pray, that pressure that I was feeling started to release. And I can feel it off of my chest. I can feel the pressure release off of my arms. I can feel the pressure relief off of my legs. I was able to now get up, but I laid there and I continued to pray. When I did have my full motions and I was able to move and I was ready to move, I got up and I immediately hit my children's father. Like, you didn't hear me? It was the shock of it all. Of course he didn't hear me. Of course he didn't feel me, because I couldn't speak and I couldn't move. So he didn't know what was going on. I had to explain to him what happened to me. Another night that I remained up. Well, it was early morning hours, so I didn't go back to sleep until the sun was out. That was the first experience. And these things continue to happen, and I just couldn't understand. Now, throughout my life, I've had repetitive, you know, events that just continue to happen. Like, I couldn't take 10 steps forwards without getting knocked 20 steps back. And this is what it's always been. However, when I was younger, I seemed to have that bounce back effect. Meaning things would go wrong, I would bounce back. I could get jobs like you wouldn't believe. Like, I would quit a job because I didn't like it, and then one day and the next day have another job. It was like that, so much so to my brother. One of my older brothers had asked me, he goes, how the heck do you do that? How do you quit a job and then have another one the next day? I'm like, I don't know. I just go in there with this confidence, like I know I can do the job. I might not have had not one set of skill sets that pertain to the job that I was going for, but I always seem to manage to get it. I attribute that to the Most High now. I didn't attribute that to him before. But I began to experience this, these repetitive events in my life. And, I couldn't understand it. I just could not understand it. I'll get into some of these events, later on down the line when I'm discussing other topics. But, for the sake of the time of this video and the things that I want to cover, I'm going to just leave those details out and just wait for another time. But I began to experience repetitive events like lack, serious financial issues. It seemed like, the majority of my issues was surrounding my finances and, never really having enough and trying to make ends meet. And, I have 6 children. So it became extremely hard, to get. I couldn't understand. I just couldn't understand it. I would pray and I would pray and I would pray and I would be asking questions that I just wasn't getting the answer to. Now, maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe this was a test from the Most High, but I told you, He dealt with me in, specific ways. And at the time, I didn't understand, but now I understand that He will allow you to go through things and events, that we call trials and tribulations, as many times as it takes to humble you down, as many times as it takes for you to pay attention so that He can speak to you and you listen. But at the time, I didn't understand that. So I was making things worse, not realizing I was making them worse. When He wanted me to depend on Him and reach out and call for Him, in the manner that I needed to, I was trying to fix things myself. So I'm praying, but all the while I'm praying, I'm trying to fix things myself, not fully, wholly dependent on Him. And I was making things worse. I was making things worse. I was making a big mess and found myself, on many occasions crying like a baby because I didn't know how to fix it. So fast forward, we're in, I want to say, 2014. Now, I met my children's father when I was almost 18 years old. I was just getting ready to turn 18 years old. And within the first year of meeting him, he asked me to marry him. And I told him I didn't want to get married. And if I did get married, I was only going to do it one time, and I wasn't going to do it again if it didn't work out. And my reasoning for not wanting to get married is because I saw how hurt my mother was, in her marriage. And a lot of people would say, well, you're not your mother. I understand that. However, I seen that, and I held on to her experiences. So I really didn't want marriage, because to me it seems like when you get married, things change, and they don't always change for the better. So I had it in my mind, my young mind, I didn't want to get married. So my kid's father proposed to me a second time. And that time he did it inside of a mall. And because I didn't want to embarrass him, I accepted. But in my mind, I'm just saying we ain't get married no time soon. And that's because I didn't fully wholeheartedly trust this man, because there was things that was transpiring. So yeah, We were staying with each other. Yes, we were having children, but I felt like I still had control over something. I didn't have to marry him. You understand? If I wasn't ready to marry him, and I stuck to that. And let me tell you how time don't wait for nobody. Because 15 years later, we were still engaged. And a woman that I used to call my second mother, you know, she had called my mom because she had had a dream about me and she needed to speak to me. She had a message for me. Now, this woman was a Christian woman, and she had some gifts and abilities of her own. And anytime she wanted to speak to you, whether it's she didn't see me in years, and anytime she wanted to speak to you, she had a word. You had to know that what she was saying, she had some truth to it because she seemed to know things. So my mom called her up, and then she put me on the phone, and I was talking to her, and she was asking me how I was doing. And then, I was talking to her, and she was asking me about my relationship with my children's father and when we were going to get married. And I just told her, I was like, I'm not ready yet. Now, all the while, prior to this conversation, I have been praying to the Most High because I have been having, these feelings. And I'm going to call them these feelings, and I'm not going to get into the depth of the situation until another video to be another topic. But I had been having these feelings, and I was praying, to the Most High for an answer. One thing about the Most High is He will allow you to make decisions yourself. But all the while, He will be showing you things. And if you're not paying attention or you refuse to pay attention, you got to go through what you got to go through. And that's what He was allowing me to go through, what I had to go through, because I wasn't paying attention and I wasn't listening to the information that He was giving me and the signs that He was giving me. So He just let me go through it. And this woman I call my second mother, she said to me, the Most High can't bless you while you living in sin. And the things that she began to speak to me, I'm looking at my mother like I didn't talk to anybody about any of these things that she's saying to me right now. How is it that she's saying these things to me right now? So it did something to me. And instead of me getting back on my knees and consulting the Most High, I decided, okay, let me marry this man, because the Most High is not going to bless me. He's not hearing me until I come out of this sin. About a year later, I went and I married my children's father. And I say a year later because it was a year. I was trying to get the money together so I can have the type of wedding that I wanted, and I would save a certain amount of money, and then something would happen and I would have to use that money that I saved to take care of the situation, and then something else would happen, so I never was really able to save up what I wanted to have the wedding that I wanted. So I just opted, listen, we'll call the Justice of the Peace. We'll have them come out. We get married right here in our house. And that's what we did. And nothing turned out right. And that should have been an indicator, but I was oblivious to it. And about a month or so later, so this was in about 2015. This was in 2015. And about 2 months after I got married, 2 months after I said I do, I was, going to college online, and I was doing my coursework. And, I decided I would take a break because my mind just couldn't get settled. I had, all of these thoughts going through my head about past experiences or whatever. And it had me kind of down. And I couldn't shake this feeling. I just couldn't shake it. And it was so overwhelming, these thoughts and things that was just being brought to my remembrance, things that I thought I forgot, experiences and, troubles and just all sorts of things that I had done all sorts of things that I had experienced, and just, anger, whether it been from childhood, whether it had been from my adulthood, just everything just came, fluttering at me. And, you know, a lot of different things played a part to this anger that I was experiencing. And I just began to talk out loud to the Most High. I was alone, I was in my room, and I was just, expressing my confusion over what is going on. Like, life couldn't supposed to be. It really, it couldn't have been all, it couldn't have been just what I was experiencing, because it seems like I had a lot more negative events than good ones, a lot more negative experiences than good ones, and I just couldn't understand what I was doing wrong. I just couldn't understand why, it seemed like every 2-3 years I was going through the same thing. I mean, the same things over and over again. It might not have been the exact same situation, but it had the very same outcomes every time. And I just started expressing my frustration and my anger until I got to the point where I was just like, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to be doing that I'm not doing? I started questioning, like, what is this? Why am I here? Am I just here to go through, all of these different trials? I don't even know what I'm doing wrong. You won't tell me what I'm doing wrong. I don't even know. And I was going off, like, but it was sincere. I really wanted to know what I was doing that was so wrong that I had to continue to go through these tribulations that I was going through. And I was bringing up events that happened when I was little. Like, what did I do? Like, what did I do that I'm in this situation? I don't understand. Why am I here? I said I just want to go home. Now, these are not words that I practiced and wrote down. This was me pouring my heart out to the Most High, which is something that, I have never done to this extent. And, before you knew it, I was crying and just going, I was just going in. I was talking, I didn't even know what was going on. And, afterwards, I just laid there. I just curled up and I just laid there. And I laid there. And I laid there for hours. My children were coming to check on me like, Mommy, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, just leave me. And I was just crying. I was just crying. It seemed like for hours I was just crying. Like, I was just having, just all these thoughts going in my head. And I was just, I didn't know what to do with them. And I was just crying. And my husband comes in and he was like, what's the matter? And I immediately told him, you can't help me. You can't help me. And he was like, what do you mean I can't help you? What's wrong? Who did it? I can take care of it. I was like, you can't help me. Just leave me alone. And I must have been like that, guys, for a good 3 days. Okay. And then I finally left from out of my room and I went into my younger son's room where we had the lounge couch and I can just lay there and I would put music on inside of his room. He didn't sleep in there. He mainly slept in my room. His toddler bed was in there, his toys, but he didn't sleep in his room. So I went in there just to give me another surrounding because I was really trying to shake off whatever this was that I was going through. I'd never been through it before. So I put, at the time I put my gospel music on. Always been a spiritual person. And I told you that I used to go to church when I was younger. So I've always been a spiritual person. When I was younger, I read the Bible several times, but I would try to stay away from Revelations. That chapter scared me. And I would only read that chapter when it was light outside. But I've read the Bible before. But I've always been spiritual and I love music. So I put the music on, had my gospel music on, and I was just, laying there on the lounge couch, and I was just, just laying there, had my thoughts going or whatever. And then all of a sudden I started hearing, I don't want to say hearing, just say scriptures were popping up in my head. Now, I'm going to tell you something about me. I cannot quote scriptures. Like, I can't tell you. I can quote you what it says, but I can't tell you where to go to get it. That's not my gift. So I can tell you it's in there. It says this, this, and this. But somebody who's versed in that, somebody who has been given that gift and that ability, will be able to say, oh, you're talking about, oh, this is Hebrews, this chapter, this verse. I was never able to do that. So how these scriptures, chapters, and verses were popping up in my head was beyond me. And I'm like, wait, what? Just scriptures and verses. And I had asked the Most High a lot of why questions. And he was answering me, and I didn't know he was answering me. So I didn't write anything down. I didn't go grab my Bible, not just then. But this continued to happen over and over and over again until finally, one day, I went and I grabbed the Bible. And I was led to read Deuteronomy 28. And I'm reading Deuteronomy. You know, Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter, is long. And it goes over the blessings and the curses. And I was reading all of the blessings, and I'm wondering to myself, like, what is this? Like, I don't understand, what is this? And I closed the book because I didn't understand what was going on. And then, you know, a day or so passed by, and it was the time of year that they started playing the movie The Ten Commandments. And I had just finished doing my schoolwork, and I'm still going through these motions, and I thought that, you know, the feeling that I was having, I didn't know what it was. But I tried to push through it. So I continued my online studies, and I was doing my work until I got tired, and I, you know, shut everything down, and I'm looking at the Ten Commandments, which I must have watched this movie just like anybody else, like 1,001 times, times 10. But I'm looking at it, and I found myself talking through the movie, and I was saying to my husband, yo, turn the channel. And he was like, why? I was like, because I said, I don't understand. I said, these people, they are unappreciative. I was like, they have everything. The Most High loves them. He chose them. And I'm naming off all of the different things that, you know, these people were blessed with. And I was talking about, you know, how they didn't appreciate. They were unappreciative, and, you know, the different things that they had done. And it disgusted me. So I no longer wanted it to be playing on the television. So my husband turned the channel. And I want to say a couple of days went by, and scriptures popping up in my head again is Deuteronomy. And I was like, you know what? Let me put this. Well, I don't know why. I don't understand. I'm going to put this. Let me go to this Deuteronomy 28 chapter. So I read it. I was reading. You know, I read the Bible backwards and forwards. I couldn't even tell you how many times, but I've read it. And I'm reading the blessings, and I'm like, yeah. And then I get to the curses. And when I tell you, the light bulb went off, and when the light bulb went off, I was disgusted. I was disgusted because I was like, wait a minute. This looked like something new that was put inside of this book, because I had never seen it before. And I've read the Bible, okay? And I thought I had an understanding, but obviously I didn't. And I was being shown that I didn't. I was immediately disgusted because immediately it was brought to my remembrance the Ten Commandments movie, and how I was going off, and everything that I said, from those people being unappreciative to, you know, this is the reason why this happened and that happened. And, you know, I was, let me tell you how reading Deuteronomy 28 chapter brought so many things back to things that I said, things that I had done. It was almost as the Most High was saying, yeah, you're those people. Those people are your people. And yeah, you're right. You're unappreciative. And All of that was coming back at me. All of those things are coming back at me. So here's the waterworks. Waterworks does again. I am guilty. I know that I'm guilty. I have done things that I shouldn't have done, and now I am apologizing for everything. I am on my knees, and I am apologizing for everything. And it felt like I was being beat. That's how much truth I was given, and that's what it felt. It felt like I was being beat with the truth. And I was being made to see that those very same people that I was talking about was our people. And we have the same actions. We have the same attitude today as they did all those years ago. So going through the motions, and repenting and just, continuing to go through the motions, once I got myself together, I went straight for the laptop. And I wanted to know how many other people knew that we are the people of the book. And lo, to my surprise, everybody was posting videos on YouTube about it. People done been on there 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and my jaw dropped. And I was just saying, where have I been all of this time? Where have I been? Why didn't I ever hear anything about this? What the heck? I missed. What is this? I'm looking at videos. I was so hungry. I watched YouTube videos night and day, and the Most High was dealing with me the whole time. I watched videos night and day. I cried, watching videos night and day, crying and crying. It was crazy. I shared with my husband, and he was like, "Wait, what?" Because he grew up in the church too, but he didn't gravitate to it the way that I did. I had to watch it when I got up. I tried not to go to sleep for watching this stuff, and I would take breaks. I had to feed my children. There was things that I had to do, but I'd be right there up. It was on. I was never tired when I was watching these things. And I knew I had to share this information, but I knew that people wasn't going to accept what I was saying. And the one person that I was concerned about what they would say was my mother, because she was back in the church, and she was, a part of that church crew. And I remember when my older brothers had become 5%ers, and they would debate her, how she was, and she'd be angry with them and whatever. And I was like, this is my mother. I'm the youngest. I'm a mama's girl, and she's going to be angry with me. And I didn't want that, but I also knew I had to tell her. So I had to develop a strategic way of giving my mother this information, and I had to take some time to do it. And all the while, I am continuing to learn. I began to experience things, and one of the things that I experienced via dreams, because that's how the Most High has always dealt with me. I had seen visions of things, of beings that was nothing pretty, scary. One particular dream, my husband and I had big pillows laid out on the floor, and we were laid out on the floor, and we were watching movies, and we had went off to sleep, and my closet doors had full mirrors on them, and we were in front of those mirrors, and I had fell asleep listening to one of my videos, and I woke up, but I was still sleeping. I don't know if that makes sense, because I can see myself sleeping, and I was moving, but my physical body wasn't moving, and I was watching myself as I sleep, and I knew, I gotta get back. So I got back and I just laid there looking at myself in the mirror, but I wasn't fully awake. And I knew that I wasn't fully awake. And what I was experiencing at that time, I couldn't tell you, but it was just such a brightness. It was a brightness. And the room looked kind of foggy, but it was a bright foggy, if that makes sense. I started having dreams about aliens and them trying to get me and attack me, and know now that those are demons that was trying to attack me or whatever have you. And I had a dream that I was cleaning my room, and I kept telling my husband to close the room door. And then I yelled at him, and I was just like, yo, I said close the room door. I keep telling you to close it. And he's like, I closed it. And I was like, you didn't close it because it's open. Look. So we both turn and we look at the door. And all of a sudden, I'm being pulled out the door by something that I couldn't see. And my husband grabs me by my other hand, and he's pulling me towards him. So I'm being pulled in two different directions. And I must have gotten angry because I snatched away from both of them. And I was just like, no. And my husband flew one way, and this invisible being, you know that he flew another way because all you could hear was crashing. I still don't know fully what that dream was about, but I do have an idea. There's a couple of other things that I've experienced during this first couple of years of this awakening that has blown my mind. But again, I don't want this video to be too long, so I'm gonna have to break it up some. But I will tell you about a dream that I had that felt really real. And this dream happened in about 2017. In this dream, I was with my cousin, and we were on this train. And while we were on this train, you know, we were laughing and joking and talking. We get off the train, it looks like we're in the city. Not sure if we were in the city, but it looks like we were in New York City. And we get off the train, and we're standing in front of this apartment building. And when I looked out, there were Caucasian people laid out on the ground, a lot of them. And standing up, and it seemed like they were frozen in space, like frozen in time, like time stopped and they was just still, were Hebrew people. And I looked to my left, because that's where my cousin was, and she was gone. And then I looked straight ahead, and it was just destruction. It was fires, there were cars that crashed into each other. It was just destruction. And I looked to my right, and it was this older black guy. And he wasn't frozen. He was standing by my side. And I never said anything to him, and he never said anything to me. I just looked at him, and then I turned, because there were two what looked like police officers from a distance that were walking towards us. And when they got close enough for me to see, I recognized that these were demons. And I know that they were demons because they had black eyes. So they had police officer uniforms on, but they had black eyes, which let me know that they was possessed. Those were demons. And one of the cops, one of the officers, he was throwing out all sorts of, curse words and what he was going to do to me, and, what he wanted to do. And he was coming closer and closer, and I began to notice, like, the closer he got, the more pain he seemed like he was in. The closer that he got, I started to see, like, his face peeling away, like it was burning away. And I'm looking at him. I didn't say a word. I could feel like I felt like I was afraid, but I didn't show it. And he got as close as he could tolerate. And I say that because You can tell that he was in pain the whole time. He was trying to move forward. He was trying to move towards me while he's talking about all the different things that he's going to do to me and blah, blah, blah. Until he had enough. Like, until he just stopped talking. And then he just stared at me. And if looks could kill, I would have been dead like 20 times over, because that's the look that he had on his face. And then he looked as if I disgusted him, and he walked away from me. And the other cop, the other officer that was with him, he turned and he followed behind him. And I looked at the older black gentleman that was near me, and I looked at him, and I was like, he was saying that he wanted to do all of those things. I was like, all of those things he wanted to do to me, all of those things that he was going to do to our people, but our people is still standing. And the older gentleman shook his head and he smiled. And I went to follow around the building in the direction that they went to see where they were going. And I walked and I looked around the corner, and there was this huge angel. He was huge. And I could give a descriptor of what the angel looked like, but I'm going to hold it. I'm just going to say that he was huge. He was big. And his feet wasn't touching the ground. And I can hear him shouting at these officers, and the one that was spewing out all sorts of hate and things that he was going to do to me, he was ignoring this angel. And he got into his patrol car, him and his partner, and shut the door. And when I tell you that this angel ripped the top of the car off, he ripped the roof of the car off. And the one officer who was spewing his disgust and disdain and his hate at me, he didn't even look like he was afraid. But the officer that was with him, he was afraid. And so I heard the angel say, "You have your orders." And the officer didn't respond. And he was like, I could hear what was being said, but I couldn't hear everything. But I would only hear, "You have your orders." It appeared that the angel was upset with these two demons because of the fact that he tried to approach me to do something to me. And obviously, that wasn't allowed. That wasn't the order that he was given, and it wasn't going to be tolerated, because when I tell you, before I can blink, that angel took that officer's head off, cleaned off his body. And the other officer, the partner that was just following behind him, he was scared. And the angel told him, "Now you go back and you let them know that they have their orders." Then the angel he knew I was there. And I'm saying he for the lack of me not wanting to express. It's not even me not wanting to express. I don't know if that was a male or a female, so I'm just going to say he. Looked at me because he knew I was there. And I just looked and I was just like, I'm going to go now. And so the angel nodded his head and said, "You can go." And I left. I hopped back on that train, and when the doors closed, I got up out of that dream. I didn't know what the heck that was about, but I knew that it was something serious. And the one thing that I took from out that dream was I wasn't supposed to be touched. I wasn't. What that demon was doing, even by trying to come near me, he was out of line. He was out of order. And he wasn't supposed to do it. That's what I took away from that dream. Nothing more, nothing less. And I continue to have, several dreams, after that, even one regarding my mother, which to this day I haven't shared with her because it would scare her. And I'm not going to share it for the sake of the fact that she might listen to this video that I'm making, and I don't want her to find that out. But recent events, because like I said, I've continued to go through, have dreams and, training, so to speak, casting out devils. I've been having trainings. And I know that I was having trainings because one of my trainings, I knew I failed it. I knew I failed it. And I woke up and I was very upset and I cried because I knew I failed it. And I shared it with my husband, who was like, listen, he goes, this don't mean you give up. This happens sometimes. This don't mean that you give up. This doesn't mean that it's over. He was like, whatever's going on and whatever needs to be done, he was like, you fix it. He was like, you go back and fix it or whatever. That same night, that very same night, I went back into the same dream that I had the night before. And I knew when I woke up that I passed that test. That training, I passed it. And I never had that dream again. I know when I do good, when I pass these trainings, because you don't repeat them again. But when you don't pass them, you repeat them until you do pass them. So now it's kind of like you're not allowed to fail. That's the feeling I get. I'm not allowed to fail. So I would continue to repeat. And I know that a lot of my stuff is fear. And I'm not supposed to be scared, which is the reason why I am being thrown back into certain trainings, because you got to get the fear out of me. So with that being said, I continue to have, dreams. The Most High is dealing with me on a whole nother level at these, during these times. Because just this past Sabbath, let me look at my calendar so I can get it right. I don't want to not have accurate information I'm giving you. This past Sabbath date was the 16th. Okay, so let's just say that on March 14th, 2019, no, let me take it back to March 12th, 2019. March 12th and March 13th, 2019, I was having an extremely good day after a frustrating year in a new position I have been promoted into. And it was a horrible transition because of the lack of staff. And I was going through a time, but things started to turn around. I started to get things to turn around, however, but the devil is busy. And he's got to do what he always does and throws monkey wrenches in your plans and, your progression. And he was throwing many, many monkey wrenches at me. I was going through many trials and tribulations and still pushing through. I mean, I had my lights turned out for several months while my children were in here, and we made do. Seemed like one thing was happening after the next, and I couldn't even take care of one situation before the next was coming, so I was under attack. And I was under attack because now, not only does the enemy know the gifts that's been given to me, the promise, not only does the enemy know who I am, he's afraid because now I'm starting to know. I'm learning. I'm understanding. And whatever the Most High has for me, he's scared because of me waking up. So throwing lots of different monkey wrenches in my plans and throwing a lot of different, just had chaos and confusion going within the household, just confusion on the job, just, all sorts of different things going on. But I continued, to push through. And March 12th and 13th, 2019, I was happy. I woke up happy both days, and I didn't even know why. Because over, the last several, I want to say over the last several weeks, I had what I call blackout dreams. I had dreams, but I'm not meant, I guess, to recall them. And I experienced that throughout my life. So I developed the name Blackout. Blackout dreams. I would always say to my kids, they go, I didn't have a dream last night. I'm like, yeah, you definitely had something happen. You just can't remember. It's not for you to remember. So we call them blackout dreams. I had been having blackout dreams or whatever have you, not remembering. But I was rested. I felt rested. I didn't feel tired these 2 days. I felt better than I felt, in the last in the weeks prior, and I didn't know why. That was the 12th and the 13th. March 14th, I started to feel like something was wrong. Like I know that I have also discernment. I knew that I had that from little. And I knew that when I came into my awakening, where I was being led to look at certain groups of people, that were supposed to be in the truth and they're talking about the truth, but I couldn't stand to listen to but so much of what they had to say, to the point to where I couldn't listen to them at all, because I would literally get sick. I would literally physically get sick. My stomach would become nauseous. I would start profusely sweating. I would get sick until it was turned off. So my discernment, it has, that gift has always been there. With that being said, I just felt like something was wrong on March the 14th. I didn't know what, but I just felt like, I didn't want to be bothered. I knew that I had some things to do for my mom, who's disabled and older. I intended to do those things. I told my staff that I didn't want no phone calls unless it was an emergency, because when I get like this, the only thing that I need to do is be by myself until I figure out what's going on. And so I spent the Sabbath in my bed, and I came across a video. And I'm not going to mention the video because I'm not here to promote people. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just here to tell my story and, try to encourage somebody, let them know that they're not alone. And if someone wants to encourage me, I'm not here to promote anybody's videos, because I don't want to be held responsible for them, going to the wrong group of people. I don't want to be responsible for that. I only want to tell my story. But I was listening to a video, and I wasn't particularly looking. I have people that I'm subscribed to, that I listen to, and I'm alerted when things come on. And the intention was to watch something that had been uploaded by one of the people that I enjoy listening to. And I ended up seeing another video, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what is that? And, I went in to try to go into listen to the video that I originally went to listen to, but I was being pulled back like this one. So it was something in regards to the 144,000, and I was like, I guess I'll listen to it. Like, I never really, like, I would hear the brothers talking about it a lot, how they were a part of the 144,000. I never knew how many people, thought or assumed they were a part of the 144,000. I never really delved into that, because throughout my awakening, I still was kind of preoccupied, with my life, and I never, delved into learning the scriptures. I knew what it said, and I can tell people what it said, but I never went into memorizing chapters and verses. I chalked it up to not being, that wasn't my gift. That wasn't what was given to me. I stick to what I know and what was given to me. But I was like, let me check it out. I heard the brothers, they say they're part of the 144,000. I used to listen to a lot of the hate that they spew and chalked it up to them being angry for the most part. But then, I found myself slowly moving away from the things that people were talking about within these groups, and started to, listen to my discernment more, and then started weeding out things that I watched till it was very little people that I would watch on YouTube. But I watched this video and I was listening to this person tell me my dream. And that was odd. That was weird to me because I was like, how the heck did this person have the same dream as I had? Things seemed to be a little different, but it was my dream. And I was like, what? And I was like, how's that possible? Well, I left it alone, like, all right, I don't know. Then I watched another video, and then I was listening to this person tell me another dream that I had a couple of years back. And I'm like, what is this? So now all of a sudden, I know that for the weeks prior to this, I had been seeing number synchronicities. 111s, 222s, 333s, 444s, 1111s, 911s, 777, 77. I didn't know what the heck this is. I even dreamed about some numbers and I woke up to write it down, but I still haven't figured out what the heck it means. But I just giving you some information on what it was I had been dealing with prior to me watching these videos in regards to the 144,000. So I'm listening to these people and they're talking about how they're a part of it and how they came to realization and some of the dreams that they've had, the things that they've experienced, and I'm like, hold on. And it was almost like a aha moment. Because not only did it get my attention, but it was like, aha. While you thought that you were nothing and you thought that, this was the only plan that I had for you, when I was trying to get your attention and let you know it's this. So I'm was in the house bugging out because I couldn't understand what you trying to tell me. So I had to go and pick up my daughter. So on the drive to go pick her up, I'm in my head, and then I start speaking out loud to the Most High, like remembering different circumstances and times and why I had to experience those things. Let me tell you how this awakening process has been a humbling experience. When I tell you, to realize that everything you thought you knew nothing at all, my goodness, that was humbling. It hurt. It was an embarrassment, but it was a humbling experience, and it allowed me to sit down and to shut up and to be taught, because I didn't know nothing. And I realized I didn't know nothing. Now, I'm not a dummy. The Most High blessed me with brains. Okay, he blessed me with brains. I was very, very book smart and street smart, and he blessed me with brains. But when I tell you, I've never felt so dumb. Coming into all of this, it's the truth. I never felt so dumb. So this whole experience has been humbling, even with the lack, even with the loss and the different trials and the tribulations. It has been a humbling experience. I wouldn't trade it. And so, with that being said, I'm talking to him and I'm, remembering situations and this is why you did this. Is this why you did this? Because I am a part of the 144,000, but how is that possible? I thought it was all men. I thought the 144,000 was all men. How is this possible? And then I'm questioning, how is this possible? I did so much. In my life that I did too much sin, and that was what continued to come into my mind. How Can I be a part? I did too much. And yes, I repented of those things when I had my awakening. And yes, I was told to leave them, forget them. Don't let those weigh you down. I continued to hear. But I noticed that I continued to carry around certain things, and I, had to work on letting them go. But when I tell you, I was asking him questions, and I was like, I need a confirmation. I was like, I know that you led me, to this information. I was like, but this is not what I learned. Like I didn't learn this. I was like, I thought it was all meant. I didn't learn. This is not what I learned. And I was humbled all the way down because a lot of things that I had, learned, it pertained to the men. I didn't really care about, the hate that our men, our black men, our Hebrew Israelite men was spewing against us because I already knew. I was like, ain't no righteousness in that. That's self-centeredness. It doesn't really take you to discern. You see that kind of hate, that's not of the Most High. So I really didn't pay that too much attention. I wanted to listen to the, the messages that was being given. And women being a part of the 144,000 was the last thing from my mind. I didn't think that I needed the Most High to give me a confirmation. Like I needed to know. And I asked him. And I went on to pick up my daughter, and this was heavily on my mind. It just wouldn't let up. It was heavily on my mind. And I picked up my daughter, and I came back home, and I was watching another video, and I ended up going off to sleep. But before I did, I was just like asking the Most High again, I need a confirmation. Because I can't just be, just taking this. I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know where it's coming from. Is this a trick? I don't know. I need a confirmation. And I ended up going off to sleep. And I got my confirmation. When I tell you, it was immediate. It was immediate. I woke up like I slammed my hand on the bed like, oh my gosh. Are you serious? Are you serious? And I couldn't believe it. And I'm still like, I can't. So this explained to me, it explained the number synchronicities where I would see 444s and 777s and 111. I would see all of those different number synchronicities. And I really still didn't understand it, but I knew that it had to be some sort of message that was trying to be given to me. I don't know. If anybody knows what that is, please feel free to share that with me. But when I tell you, and I think I need yet another confirmation. I mean, I want to be sure that I'm sure that I'm sure. But I'm having, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. I was the same way when I was, awakened. When I was awakened, I was the same way. I have a question, which I think that I'm going to, do in my next videos that I put out there. I think at the end of it, I will ask a question that, I would like to know the answer to, or that I'm struggling with, in hopes that somebody who watches this video will, answer and help me out with the, with the answer to my question. But I have a question, like, let me see. When I was going through the awakening, it seemed like I was getting information really, really fast. So fast, in fact, that my head felt like it was going to explode. When I tell you that information was coming so quick, I mean from from questions I had asked years prior were being answered. Videos that I was watching and the information I was given, and then the Most High, putting, information in my head felt like it was going to explode. And I used to suffer with migraines. This headache that I felt worse than the migraine. And I know that I had taken Tylenol, because I really don't take, medications like that. I'm not fond of them. But I had taken Tylenol. Usually Tylenol works, and it didn't work. Tylenol did not work at all. And so I believe, if I'm correct, I had taken ibuprofen or maybe some Aleve that my husband brought, and that didn't work either. And I remember that I had the TV on and I was laying in the dark, and my daughter kept coming in and she was bringing me, like, she was trying to get me to eat, but I couldn't eat anything. And she was trying to get me to drink, but I couldn't drink anything because I couldn't sit up because of the fact that my head felt like it was going to explode. And she kept bringing me in cold compresses to put on my head or whatever. And one of the last times she came in to put the cold compress on my head, she was just like, "Oh, mommy," and she touched the crown of my head. And when she touched the crown of my head, the pain stopped. And then she took her hand away and the pain started all over again. And then I told her, I said, "Put your hand back." And she put her hand back on my head and it stopped. And I was like, "Yo, what the heck is this?" So the only way I could not experience that pain was if I put something on top of my head. I had to put something on the top of my head and the pain stopped. And I had to pray, like, "Father, I think this is too much, too fast. I don't know. Because at first I thought it was just her. Like, man, you have to sleep like this. You're going to have to sleep with your hand on top of my head. But it wasn't. It wasn't her. Because I put a pillow up against the top of my head, and that worked. So I chalked it up to the information that I was receiving from the Most High. Has anybody else experienced that? That was my question. Has anybody else, upon their awakening, or even, while they were, on their spiritual journey, did they experience anything like that? Have you read anything like that? What's your thoughts on that? I'm going to wrap this video up. It's been long. It's already like in an hour and 32 minutes. I'm going to wrap it up. But I want to say that, like I said, this is my first video of many more to come. And as I do these videos, I'll get a little bit better with it, because I don't do things like this. I have been very quiet, wherein I told the Most High that if he answered my questions, I will do his will. I will, and this was before even learning about the 44,000. This is even before, coming into the truth. I told him that I would do his will. And I've been very, very quiet, as I learn, being very, very careful, because I don't want to teach anybody anything that's wrong. I'm not even trying to teach. At this point, I'm really just trying to share my experience with others, that might have gone through the same thing, or maybe they're new to this walk. I'm still learning myself. And if I share anything or whatever have you, it's going to be my experiences and what I've gone through and what the Most High has allowed me to overcome. What I will say, though, at the end of this video, which I wanted to state at the first, but now is a better time than any, I know that there's people out there that they feel they have all the answers. But the Most High says that we learn in part. Nobody has 100% the answer. This person has some, that person has some, this person has some. And let me tell you, if you don't agree with me saying that I'm 144, I'm one of the 144,000, you could take that up with the Most High. You are entitled to believe what you want to believe at this point. Please do not get on my video with the shenanigans. I am not for that nonsense. I have no tolerance for that nonsense. I will remove you. You will not have access to post anything else on my page. This is not what it's for. I am not finna debate you about my experiences and what I have gone through in my life. I'm not gonna allow you to come and debate anybody that would want to come to my page. We're not finna do this. This is about people and what they've experienced, and if you don't agree, feel free to just pass by, turn the video off, and just do your own videos, do your own thing. I think that the important thing about this, one of the main, importances about this is the fact that you're now hearing yet another one of the Most High's people that has been woken up. Even though, my wake up happened in 2015, I am just now, being moved to come forward with telling, about my awakening process and the things that I've experienced, the things that I still experience, and the things that I'm yet to go through. That should be, a hallelujah moment, all in itself, that you see that the Most High continues to work and he continues to fulfill his promise. But if you don't agree with what I'm saying, that's fine. You don't have to agree. But I'm not going to have the disrespect. That's not going to, that's not going to happen here. But I appreciate all of y'all, and I'm with you, in your walk, and it's almost over. We're coming, to the end of it. Why else? Why else would more and more people all of a sudden, are coming out to say, hey, I'm feeling like I need to share, and I've been in this truth for XYZ amount of years, but I'm just now, feeling, like I must speak. That overwhelming urge to speak up and speak out. But I appreciate y'all, and I'll be praying for y'all when I ask y'all to pray for me. All praises to the Most High, and I will be seeing and speaking to you soon. Shalom.